This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
It's the flu season, and it's not only old people who are filling up hospital wards in Cyprus. Apparently, the pediatric wards are also filling up with infants and children who've succumbed to the disease.
So the recommendation is for all children from 6 months to 16 years to be vaccinated.
We hear about CSR Cyprus. That stands for Corporate Sustainability and Responsibility, and they're growing.
Today we take pride in having 68 member companies on board this year, all of them accelerating our path towards sustainability in Cyprus.
And every 2 years, CSR Cyprus holds a best practice competition. You don't have to be a member to join in.
We invite all companies to participate, even if they're small, as they start their journey towards sustainability. The procedure is open to all businesses in Cyprus, regardless if they're our member or not.
We know it's the flu season, and we also know that quite a lot of people are in the main general hospital, some of them quite seriously ill. What's perhaps not been quite so well reported is the fact that a lot of children, and particularly infants, have been admitted to our main paediatric hospital, the Mavrogobos hospital in Nicosia. At the last count, there were over 25 children hospitalised, some in intensive care, with flu or RSV. What's that mean? Well, we've come to a paediatrician who knows all about it to explain to us not only how we can hopefully avoid it, but how we can help to not spread it as well. Irini Pafidi is a paediatrician. She's also a lactation consultant, and we may have time to cover how that could help as well. Irini, first of all, it is the season for flu, but there does seem this year to have been a spike.
There has been a spike, particularly after COVID. So during the COVID seasons, we had hardly any flu. And then as soon as we stopped having too much COVID, the flu started re-emerging as it was just before the flu. So we had a really, really bad flu season in the winter of 2019, just before we had COVID hit us. And then for a couple of years, it was all very quiet. And now we're back to having lots and lots of influenza A at the moment. We usually expect influenza B to spike towards February.
What's the difference?
It's a genetic difference of the actual virus. It doesn't have any difference as to how it affects us. So they still give us high fever, joint pains, cough, coryza, feeling really, really tired, having rigors, not feeling well at all. And that can go up to 7 days.
Now, older people get vaccines against the flu, and I think it's only usually against one type of flu. So did they get A or B this last year?
They got both. The newer vaccines cover for 2 types of A and 2 types of flu B. And the recommendation is for all vulnerable people to be vaccinated. So the recommendation is for all children from 6 months to 16 years to be vaccinated.
They should be as well, infants?
Yes, from 6 months onwards, as well as people that are high risk with asthma, heart disease, as well as anybody over the age of 60.
Okay, that's news to me. Is that a new thing to give infants a flu vaccine?
It's been happening to other countries for many years, but it's the recommendation from ESC as well over the last 3 or 4 years now.
Let's talk as well, if we may, about this RSV. I don't know how you pronounce that S word.
Yeah, RSV is respiratory syncytial virus, okay? We've always had a lot of RSV. And it's a seasonal virus. It's a seasonal respiratory virus. It affects mainly the children under the age of 1, and very definitely the premature, the children with heart disease, with respiratory disease. And it causes bronchiolitis, which is sort of a chest infection caused by this virus. The main change this last few years is that we've had a readily available test for older children. Because older children, quite often we would say they have a viral illness. We wouldn't name it as such, but now that we have the test, we quite often say this child has RSV. What's the difference? With the infants, the problem is that they have bronchiolitis, they can have a need for oxygen, they can come off their food, they don't breathe very well, they don't eat very well, and they need to be hospitalized.
And I've heard that there have been cases of bronchial pneumonia in children as well.
Lots and lots of them this year. And that can be a complication after the flu as well as after the RSV. So all these respiratory viruses can make us more vulnerable and then end up with a secondary pneumonia. And that's usually where the problems start, that you have the viral illness, it sort of knocks off your immune system and you end up with a secondary infection. And that's why we say to parents, keep your children at home until they themselves are really well, not only to not spread the disease, but also those children in the first few days after they're recovering, they're really vulnerable themselves. So that if they come in contact with any other bacteria, they will readily grab that and become even more unwell than they were.
So they get ill all over again, apart from the fact I was going to ask you about the tendency here for parents to send their kids to nursery particularly, and sometimes to school if they have got, it's just a slight fever or a bit of a cough. And that's helping the spread, isn't it?
It is indeed. And any fever is a reason not to take your children to school. Any kind of fever.
Which brings us to the lack of care for some families, because if they're both working, the parents, they don't have an option, do they?
They don't have an option, and if the grandparents are not available or they don't live nearby. I had a poor grandma come all the way from Paphos the other day to look after the kids because they were unwell. But then we are exposing the older people who are also vulnerable from the flu and the RSV to these viruses. So the grandparents also can get severely unwell from these illnesses, and we have to be looking after them as well. So we need more social support for the families so they're not threatened from losing their jobs just because they're staying home with their sick kids.
Is there an answer? What do other countries do? I mean, is there a possibility that, for example, nursery schools could have a little isolation unit for all the kids that are manifesting these types of symptoms?
I think that's not an option. The option is for the parent to stay home, because you don't want all the sick children together because they have different things and then they pass onto each other different things and they become more unwell. So it's the parent that has to stay home, and we need more social support for the parents so they can have leave for when their children are sick.
Or flexi working, so they don't take leave days, they make it up.
They can make it up another day, work from home. Although, it's difficult to work from home with an ill child at home. But there should be more options, and especially with the flu, we need to wait 48 hours without fever before we take the children back, because the flu occasionally has a bit of a honeymoon period. So the children are quite well for 24 hours and then they spike fever again, and they're still able to spread the disease. And if we've only waited for 24 hours and the child goes back to school and by lunchtime they have fever again, they have spread the disease to the rest of their children.
How dangerous are these flus and RSVs for young children? I mean, can they cause death?
They can, unfortunately. They can. And that's why we have to be... Some children get it and it's easy for them and it's okay. But some children, especially infants, especially premature babies, they can die from these illnesses. So we can't take it lightly and say, I've passed it, it's fine. It doesn't matter if somebody else gets it.
Yeah,
if
people say it's just the flu, don't they? I mentioned at the beginning that you're also a lactation consultant.
That's correct.
Now, my understanding is that if you breastfeed your baby, you're giving it a lot of the immunity it needs not to pick up some of these diseases. Is that right?
That's true. And if we have the mums being immunized against the flu, they have antibodies in the breast milk that they're giving to the breastfed infant as well. But also we know that a lot of babies, when they're sick, they want to be cuddled with mums. The breastfed babies, they want to be fed when they're cuddled, and that helps us with the dehydration that we can get with both the flu and the RSV, because the babies are not feeling well, they don't want to drink, they don't want to eat, they can get dehydrated. The breastfed babies not only get a lot of immunity, but they're more likely to get a lot of fluids that prevent them from needing hospitalization.
And how likely is it that a new mother would think about going to get a flu jab so that her breast milk carries those antibodies? And does it carry them if she hasn't had the vaccination?
Only if she gets sick, it will carry them if she's not had the vaccination. There is a tendency in ESC guidelines, the pregnant mothers are within the high-risk people for the flu, and they're recommended to get the flu vaccine during pregnancy if they will be pregnant or have a newborn baby in the flu season.
So even if they're vaccinated early on in the pregnancy, it still carries over?
Yeah, there is. There is still some protection. Saying that, the vaccine is not 100% protective, okay? And there are people that will get the vaccine and get sick, but we know they're not going to be as sick as somebody who hasn't had the vaccine. And it's also important to say that both the flu and the RSV, they are viruses. That means that the antibiotics do not work on the viruses. You need to stay at home, you need to take painkillers, you need to hydrate well, but antibiotics are not the answer.
You've just got to wait for the virus to finish, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. The body has to fight it off.
Well, I hope that our discussion has maybe given a few people ideas about how they can protect their children and other people's children, of course. We've been talking to paediatrician Dr. Irini Pafidi about the current flu outbreak, which is particularly concerning for our children. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
The biggest achievement of Crime Stoppers has been the ability of the public to be able to give information about crime anonymously.
There's no way I could have kept prostituting without the drugs. There's no way I could have had my body used like a public toilet, because that's actually what prostitution is.
And then the fourth series I started 3 days after I'd won the Oscar, so the whole of the Monarch of the Glen experience was all interplatted with the Gosford Park Oscar experience.
I was working with Ronnie James Dio, and David was going to reform Whitesnake in 2003.
Cyprus was chosen because Cyprus is a stable, peaceful and secure place.
We have to really look closely. What are we doing with children? What are we doing with adolescents? And what are we doing with adults that can help them move into a more literate situation?
The ones that I'm proudest of are the ones that were true discoveries, where we found something we didn't know existed.
The other big story this week concerns the Mavrogobos reservoir, which is to be fully drained of its 1.4 million cubic metres of water over the coming days so that a corroded vent can be replaced. The vent has been leaking an estimated 5 cubic metres of water per second. That comes out at something like 450,000 cubic metres every day. Cyprus has one of the highest numbers of dams per capita in the world, most of which were constructed many years ago, just like the Mavrogobos Dam. And there are now concerns about the structural integrity of all the others. The reservoir is by no means one of the largest in Cyprus, with a capacity of just 2.18 million cubic metres. That's diverted from the Mavrogobos River. It was constructed in 1966 to serve banana plantations in and around the villages of Kisonerga and Peia in the Paphos district. Experts have tried to repair it without emptying the dam, but it seems that they're going to have to let all that water go if they're to get at the faulty pipe. There have been plenty of comments in the media about whether or not checks on our reservoirs should be carried out regularly when the water levels are low in the summer, but it seems that that hasn't happened over the last several years. The Environment Minister said that the dam safety unit, which had previously been understaffed, has been reinforced with a team of professionals since March last year. She said further recruitment efforts are underway, but let's see whether that means that all our reservoirs will be regularly checked so that not only do we not lose precious water, but of course if one really did burst, that could have absolutely dire repercussions.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
CSR Cyprus has an upcoming competition. It's a long time since we've spoken about what I used to know as corporate social responsibility, but I think its title has changed. Who better to tell us on this week's programme than Dr. Marinos Loukis, who is the chair of CSR Cyprus. Marinos, please do tell us a little bit more about the work that you do in CSR Cyprus.
Sure. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to talk to you. CSR Cyprus was founded in November 2016, actually, as a business-led non-governmental organization aiming to promote, develop, and implement the principles of CSR and sustainable development in Cyprus. And in 2017, we became a member of the Cyprus Employers and Industrials Federation and the national partner organization of CSR Europe, which is the leading and most powerful European business network, bringing together more than 30 national partners and uniting over 10,000 enterprises at local, European, and global levels. With 24 founding members back in 2006, today we take pride in having 68 member companies on board this year, all of them accelerating our path towards sustainability in Cyprus.
How do they do that, Marinos?
We aim to raise awareness about sustainability and by organizing specific training, specialized training and events, informative events, sometimes just for our members, exclusively for them, and sometimes for open to the public. And just to say one more thing about what you said at the beginning, it ought to be pointed out that we interpret CSR as corporate sustainability and responsibility. The old term has changed, and we have actually changed our name a couple of years ago to be aligned with the modern trends, which interpret, as I said, CSR as corporate sustainability and responsibility and not corporate social responsibility as it used to be called in the past. In other words, we firmly advocate that CSR goes far beyond volunteering or philanthropic activities. A few years ago, CSR was restricted to once-off actions such as beach cleaning activities, blood donations, etc. These days, however, it has become more massive. It extends to legal matters, compliance and risk management, and most importantly, it must be embedded in every operational and strategic aspect of a business, irrespective of its size or scope.
Can you give us an example of the sort of thing you expect the member companies to be doing?
Yes, well, we do not audit the companies. We do not check them out and restrict them from being members. On the contrary, we try to facilitate this long trip. We believe that it's a long trip for the organizations to actually embed in every pillar of their operations and in the strategy, the sustainability. What we do is, as I said earlier, by organizing these events, networking events and training, we try to guide them by, of course, it's not us who are offering the training. We invite distinguished trainers from abroad or from Cyprus, and we try to give them the latest knowledge, the latest information that they need to be aware of so that they can stay on top. Because I have to admit that things change very rapidly, and it is difficult for the organizations to follow all changes on a regular basis. And these changes, I have to say that they require investments, they require changes in structures, and it is difficult.
Okay, let's say I have a small company. I have joined your CSR Cyprus. First of all, what did you ask me when I applied to join? Because you said you don't audit. So how are you keeping an eye that I deserve to be a member?
Yeah, well, organizations, we receive applications from organizations and we check out, of course, in which sector they're active. And we do have two options for membership. The one is full member, and it's €800 per year. And the difference with the associate member, is that they have the right to elect and to be elected. And associate members, they usually offer related to sustainability services. So if we see that they do sell services related to sustainability consulting or a specific platform, online platform for registering the data for sustainability or anything else related to selling a service, then we categorize them as associate. We do not require financial statements. We do not require specific details in order to audit them and provide approval. But we just want to see that they are active. They are trying to do steps. There's a special form that they complete, and we go with that. Maybe in the future, as things change and things will be more complicated and more demanding, maybe this will change. Maybe we will have more strict guidelines for this process.
Okay, but it does concern me that, for example, if my company joined your organisation 8-9 years ago and you're not checking up on me, I could have slid back, but I'm still a member?
Well, but why would you want to be in this network if you have laid back?
Well, that's what I'm asking, is what's in it for me?
For you is that you get access to this network of people, organizations, that they are active in sustainability and they want to have an impact in the society. They want to make a change, and you get to meet with them and you go with training with them. And now we're doing some more things. For example, change of our website so that the members can be able to actively post their own achievements related to sustainability, visible to all. So through our website, they will get some promotion. We do have some other podcasts in line and videos that we are doing for each one of our members following an interview. So we do have trainings abroad that we take our members to see how Scandinavia, is a top performer, Scandinavian countries in the sustainability. So we organize yearly funded trips to, last year it was Sweden, this year will be Denmark, to organizations of different sectors so that our members who wish to participate in this funded trip to get to see and to meet and expand their network and exchange knowledge, learn from the top performers. So there's a series of benefits, and I don't think that an organization who doesn't want to be active would wish to stay in the organization and in our network and pay the yearly fee without doing anything. We haven't seen any of our members doing that so far.
Well, that's good. And I presume you want as many members as possible, because the old CSR certainly wasn't very well taken up here in Cyprus. So how can you get the message out there to companies big and small that this is for their benefit?
Well, I think that organizations, that's why we see this huge increase in our members. I think organizations now realize that it's one way for them, because EU directives keep being issued, and of course these need to be incorporated in the Cyprus law. And since this occurs, they need some guidance on how to adjust and what are the necessary steps. So we get to have these trainings in order to help them. Of course, they can go on their own, but it will be more difficult for them. And according to the 17th Sustainable Development Goal, the most important maybe, we need to have synergies. We need to have cooperation, private and public sector, non-profits and for-profit companies. We need to have cooperation in order to deal with the difficult challenges.
I wish you the best of luck doing that. That's Dr. Marinos Loukis, who's chair of CSR Cyprus, and we'll be talking as well shortly about the best practice competition. Marinos, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Rosie.
Keep up to date with events in Cyprus and around the world with the Cyprus News Digest.
And And staying with CSR, we're going to talk now about that best practice competition that's running. I think the deadline is the end of March to put in your application. Joining us to give us the details is Maria Mina. Maria, this has been going, I think, now for several years. How many people normally enter so that they can get their best practice out there?
The competition is open for all businesses operating in Cyprus, irrespective of their size. And 3 awards will be given, one for big enterprises that have more than 250 employees, one for medium-sized enterprises, and one for small with less than 10 people personnel. There is a limit up to 2 practices for the applications, provided that these relate to different initiatives implemented in CSR Cyprus during the years 2023 and 2024. Let me just say that the awards, the Best Practices Awards, are an initiative that runs every 2 years and is co-organized by our association and the Authority for Cooperative Societies, which is the competent governmental authority for the advancement of CSR in our country. And this is the 4th edition of the awards, as the first one took place back in 2018. The awards aim to highlight and celebrate initiatives undertaken by Cypriot businesses that promote CSR and overall sustainability, as well as the 2030 Agenda and the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The evaluation will take into consideration 3 criteria of the initiatives: their strategic approach, their implementation, and how innovative they are. In terms of implementation, we will see the leadership commitment, the funds, and the ways of communicating and disseminating each initiative and how innovative that was. Overall, the awards wish to celebrate responsible entrepreneurship that goes beyond profit-making and compliance and has a positive impact on society and the environment. This is why we invite all companies to participate, even if they're small, as they start their journey towards sustainability.
Do they have to be members of CSR to take part?
No. The procedure is open to all businesses in Cyprus, regardless if they're our member or not.
Well, I can see that the winners particularly will get some good publicity, I take it. Are there any prizes involved apart from that?
There will be a prize, and it will be announced in the summer on a special event.
So how many companies in the past have entered this? Because I can see that it might put some of them on the path to thinking more carefully about their sustainability.
There is a lot of interest from companies to participate. And back in 2023, we had approximately 20 applications. As I've said, there are 3 different categories, so it depends on the size and the scope of the company in which category they will take place. They will submit their application, one for big enterprises, medium and small ones.
And where can people find more details? Do you have a website or something that will outline for them what they need to do and possibly a hint about what their chances are depending on how they choose to put in their application?
Of course, they may enter or they may check our website, www.csrcyprus.org.cy. The application and the guidelines are available there for free. And we are also at their disposal to answer any questions they have while they fill the application.
Do these have to be Cypriot registered companies?
Yes.
So if they're registered in Cyprus...
Registered and operating in Cyprus, yes.
Okay, and is there a phone number you can give out for anybody who may have questions to ask?
That's 22 643 000 extension 310.
643,000 extension 310 if you'd like to enter your company in this year's CSR Cyprus Best Practice Awards. Maria Mina has been giving us the details. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosie.
Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.